The sell-off in Tesla shares has been sharp and swift. Stock sits about 18% below Monday's close. It has lost roughly $85 billion in market cap since then. And Elon Musk, CEO and founder, his wealth has shrunk by about $15.5 billion in the last couple of days. That's roughly the equivalent of Rupert Murdoch's fortune, just for some perspective. And for a little more context, the stock still up about 800% over the last year, guys. So Tesla really has been like the whip end of this whole momentum move, this new era thinking that you could have this unending growth. It's got the, save the world environmental angle and all the rest of it. But then it became a plain old kind of momentum chase and a little bit of an unwind right now.
And what's amazing, Mike, is that Matt Maley of Miller Tabak was telling Bob Pisani yesterday that Tesla could still lose another 60% of its value and be above where it was in February. It could lose another 25% from here and still be above where it was just 1 month ago. Think about that. Tesla could fall 35% in a couple of days and still be above where it was a couple of weeks ago.
And the amazing thing about it, it's almost reached escape velocity, as it suggests right there, is the dollar volume of trading in Tesla shares is routinely the largest in the market. Even though the market cap is still, a quarter or a fifth or whatever of Apple's, it trades sometimes double and triple the dollar volume of Apple. So it's just this incredibly fevered activity that you have right there. And, of course, did an equity offering at these rich valuations, and one of the largest outside shareholders, or the largest, did trim back the position. So unclear if this is a trend change or just a little bit of a shakeout.
That was going to be my point with it, too. The idea of offering that big new equity position and saying that they would kind of roll that in to the market from time to time. We don't know now, but is that going to be something when you look in hindsight and say, OK, that was kind of ringing the bell at the top? Good for them for being smart enough to realize, hey, if people are willing to pay this amount for it, let's get some more shares out there in the market at this point. But because of the way it's being structured, with many banks being able to offer it, you may not see a lot of those new shares, depending on what happens. Again, it's
$5 billion,
had an awfully huge run.
$5 billion could have been done in half a day. Depending on how much of the market they want it to be. So I'm not sure if it's necessarily an overhang as much as it is a little bit of a tell from management, which has said they didn't need to raise any more capital to say, fine, the market's begging us to do this. Why don't we just lock some in at these prices?
If people are willing to throw money at you, you take it, right?
Yeah.
I think this could also be one of the most politically important stocks out there. In terms of the polls, guys, think about it. With the federal tax credit is so important to Tesla. And, of course, the Tesla bears will say if you pull out that tax credit, the company's just bleeding money. If you think you're going to get a Democratic sweep, I would imagine it makes it much more likely that tax credits on EVs are going to last. If you think that maybe Trump re-wins and the Senate stays where it is and you worry about the future of the federal tax credit, this could be a stock that moves wildly on the political polls as well, I would suspect.
Yeah, and some actually have pointed to the polling as a factor for maybe one factor in the recent sell-off.
Yeah, that's a really interesting take, though, Brian, because if you've been listening to Elon Musk, he's been so frustrated with being shut down and not allowed to open get his workers back into the factory during the height of COVID. He's definitely more of a libertarian. It's kind of hard to guess where he would come down, but I don't know that he would necessarily side with a lot of the Democrats who are in favor of giving those tax credits that are helping his company giving his company so much help.
You also, thanks, Becky. You also have a huge amount of competition. I'm going to tell you something. The Polestar 2, which is basically the Volvo, that's their new EV project, owned by Geely of China. Yeah. That's getting great reviews. It's a beautiful-looking car. Tesla right now has crushed the competition. That Polestar, as a car guy, I'm just telling you, could be a viable competitor.